All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a seriously fascinating ancient text, the Mahāli Sutta. We're going to take a profound philosophical journey together that actually kicks off with literal magic and supernatural powers, but, spoiler alert, ends up at ultimate, unshakable enlightenment. It's basically a masterclass in shifting our perspective away from worldly distractions and zooming in on what actually matters.
So, we've broken this explainer down into 5 quick sections. We'll start with the mystery of a certain monk's supernatural abilities, explore the ultimate goal of the holy life, tackle a massive metaphysical riddle about the soul and body, map out the exact path to insight, and wrap up with the 8 stages of ultimate knowledge. Let's get to it.
Part 1. The mystery of divine eyes and ears, and the curious case of Sunakata's meditation. Our story begins with a nobleman named Mahāli. He approaches the Buddha with this highly specific, kind of gossipy question about another monk named Sunakata.
Mahāli is intensely curious because, well, Sunakata had seemingly unlocked half a superpower. He had acquired what the text calls the divine eye, literally the ability to see divine, beautiful visual forms, but for some strange reason, he totally lacked the divine ear. He couldn't hear any of the accompanying divine sounds. So Mahāli desperately wants to know what's going on. Is this a glitch in the matrix? Is he blocked by some kind of cosmic force?
And this sets up the Buddha's incredibly logical, straightforward response. He explains that in deep meditation, you achieve exactly what you explicitly train your mind to focus on. Nothing more, nothing less. Sunakata had directed his concentration entirely towards seeing beautiful, divine forms in the east, south, west, and north. Because he literally just didn't train his mind to hear sounds, well, he didn't hear them.
The absolute crucial takeaway here is that these aren't arbitrary, mystical gifts randomly bestowed by the heavens. Not at all. They're just a direct byproduct of very specific mental training. If a monk trains their mind in both directions simultaneously, focusing on forms and sounds, they're going to experience both. It's purely a straightforward matter of cause and effect in mental conditioning.
Hearing this, Mahāli immediately jumps to a conclusion. He thinks, wow, seeing and hearing divine things, that has to be the entire point of the holy life. That must be the whole reason people follow the Buddha.
Which brings us to Section 2, the ultimate goal of the holy life, or moving beyond supernatural parlor tricks. The Buddha swiftly shuts Mahāli's assumption down. He explains that these abilities, as cool as they are essentially just spiritual parlor tricks. There are much higher, far more exquisite goals for a practitioner to actually pursue.
So the real goal isn't magic. It's systematically destroying mental fetters, those psychological chains that keep us bound to suffering. The Buddha lays this out in 4 distinct stages. It starts with the stream enterer, who breaks the first 3 fetters and secures a future totally free from lower realms. Then you progress to the once-returner, the non-returner, and finally the arahant, the fully liberated being who has completely destroyed all mental taints and achieved ultimate liberation in this very life. That is the true goal.
And to actually reach those 4 stages, the Buddha doesn't just offer vague, feel-good inspiration. He provides the exact mechanism. When Mahāli asks if there's a path to get there, the Buddha introduces the Noble Eightfold Path. This is the direct, actionable roadmap, starting from right view all the way down to right concentration, that makes realizing those stages absolutely possible.
Now let's pivot to a completely new scene in the text. Suddenly, 2 wandering ascetics, Mandya and Jaliya, show up, and they confront the Buddha with this massive, seemingly unanswerable metaphysical riddle that philosophers have been arguing over for centuries. They ask, are the soul, the life principle, and the physical body the exact same thing, or are they 2 completely different entities?
Section 3. What are soul and body? The Buddha's approach to unanswerable debates. Now, instead of just giving them a simple yes or no and joining this endless philosophical debate, the Buddha does something entirely unexpected to shift their whole perspective.
He actually answers their question with a question. He explains that once a person achieves ultimate spiritual insight through direct, lived experience, getting tangled up in theoretical debates about the soul becomes completely irrelevant. The debate itself is really just a symptom of not truly seeing reality.
Moving to Section 4, the path of Sila, Samadhi, Panna, the step-by-step roadmap to making the debate irrelevant. The Buddha doesn't just leave them hanging with a philosophical mic drop, right? To show them exactly how a practitioner reaches that level of earth-shattering insight, he lays out the complete progression of a monk's training. It's a precise 3-part journey: morality, meditation, and wisdom. Or Sila, Samadhi, and Panna.
It all kicks off with morality, or sila. The text provides this massive, exhaustive list of ethical rules, starting with the basics, no killing, stealing, or lying. But it gets incredibly granular. Middle morality involves giving up games, luxuries, and hoarding. Major morality requires completely rejecting all fortune-telling, astrology, and magic rituals. Essentially, this is about setting up a life entirely from harm, anxiety, and worldly distractions. Because let's face it, you really can't meditate if your mind is chaotic.
Once that flawless morality is locked in, the practitioner's mind is finally calm enough to move into meditation, or samadhi. They progress through 4 steps of deep absorption, known as the jhanas. Notice how it's essentially a process of subtraction. You start with joy and applied thought, but systematically strip away mental chatter, excitement, and even pleasure and pain, until by the 4th stage, you reach pure, unshakable, crystal-clear equanimity.
Which leads us to Section 5, the 8 knowledges to nirvana, the evolution of the liberated mind. Now, with a mind that is perfectly concentrated, bright, and flawless, the practitioner enters the final phase, wisdom, or panna. The Buddha explains that this highly tuned mind unlocks 8 profound stages of knowledge, taking you from basic physical insight all the way to absolute freedom. As this mental evolution progresses, the monk unlocks some incredible insights. They start by clearly seeing the exact relationship between consciousness and the physical body. Then they unlock psychic powers, divine hearing, and mind reading. As they go further, they can even recall their own past lives across countless eons and eventually use the true divine eye to see the karmic paths of all living beings.
And here is the brilliant callback in the text. With every single new level of knowledge unlocked, whether that's reading minds or remembering past lives, the Buddha turns back to the 2 ascetics and repeats his main point. When someone directly experiences this level of reality, do you really think they sit around arguing about whether the soul and body are the same? No way. The enlightened mind entirely discards those theoretical debates. They just literally don't matter anymore.
The absolute pinnacle of this whole journey is the 8th knowledge, the destruction of the mental taints. This is where the practitioner directly, personally sees the 4 noble truths. They deeply understand suffering, its origin, its end, and the exact path to end it. And in doing so, they permanently destroy all mental impurities, sensuality, the desire for becoming, and ignorance. Reaching this point results in a really beautiful, definitive realization. The practitioner knows without a shadow of a doubt, birth is ended, the holy life fulfilled, the task done. There is nothing further for this world. The cycle of rebirth is broken, the ultimate goal has been officially achieved.
So, I want to leave you with this thought as we wrap up our analysis of the Mahāli Sutta. The Buddha skillfully took a question about magic, transitioned it into a masterclass on ultimate liberation, and used it to entirely silence a pointless philosophical debate. It really makes you ask yourself, are we spending our own lives arguing over philosophical riddles and theoretical debates, or are we actively walking a path to actually free ourselves from suffering? Thanks for tuning into this explainer. I'll see you in the next one.